Imagine being the most powerful religious figure in the world. 2 billion people answer to you. Kings bow before you. Your word is law. And then they take it all away. Not your life, not immediately. They take your home, your office, your position. They exile you. They send you away from Rome, away from your authority, away from everything you know. And then they make sure you suffer. Throughout history, popes didn't just get deposed. They were exiled. Sent to remote islands, frozen wastelands, held as prisoners by emperors, forced to travel across mountains while dying. Some of them never came back. They died in exile, far from Rome, stripped of their power, their dignity destroyed. This is the story of popes who lost everything and were forced to die far from home. Men who were dragged from the throne of Peter and deposited in prisons, islands, and forgotten places. It's not just about losing power. It's about what happens to a man when you take away everything he is. Drop a comment right now. If you were exiled from everything you built, how would you survive it? And tell me your location and what time it is, because I want to know who's watching this thinking about how fragile comfort really is. Part 1. The first pope to die on an island. The year is 536. Pope Silverius refuses to obey Empress Theodora. She orders him captured. Silverius is taken from Rome. He's imprisoned. He's exiled to the island of Palmyra, a remote place, isolated, far from civilization. On this island, Silverius waits. He has no authority, no position, no power. He's just a prisoner, waiting for death. And death comes. On November 11th, 537, Pope Silverius dies on the island where he's been imprisoned. He dies alone. Far from Rome, far from the church he led. A pope, stripped of everything, dying on a prison island because he refused to compromise. His body remains on Palmyra. It's not returned to Rome for a proper burial. It's not honoured with papal ceremonies. It's left where it dies. This is the first pope to die in exile, and his death sets a pattern. Exile isn't just political removal. It's a slow death sentence. Part 2. The Pope sent to frozen hell. Jump forward 120 years. Pope Martin I refuses to accept imperial theology. He defies an emperor. So the emperor has him arrested, dragged to Constantinople, tried for treason against the state, condemned, and then exiled. But not to a comfortable place, not to an island with a monastery. The emperor sends Martin to the Crimea. The Crimea in the year 656 is not a destination. It's a death sentence. It's the frozen edge of the civilized world. It's where people are sent to be forgotten. Martin is placed there, alone, without support, without protection. An old pope exiled to a frozen wasteland, left to die. The records say he dies of ill treatment and neglect, not a quick death, a slow one, cold, hunger, isolation, the weight of knowing he'll never see Rome again. On September 16th, 656, Pope Martin I dies in the Crimea. He's the last pope to be martyred, not by Roman persecutors, but by a Christian emperor. Not killed outright, but exiled and left to waste away. His death is forgotten for centuries. It's only later that the Church realizes Martin died for principle, and the Church canonized him. But that canonization doesn't warm the Crimea. It doesn't erase the cold he felt. It doesn't bring him home. Part 3. The Pope banished into obscurity. Pope Marcellus I is elected in 308. His papacy lasts only 8 months. When he refuses to compromise with the Roman government, he's arrested. But instead of being killed, he's simply exiled. He's banished from Rome, driven out, sent away. Marcellus is 53 or 54 years old. He's the Pope. He should be in Rome, in the Lateran Palace, leading the Church. Instead, he's somewhere else. Alone, struggling to survive. The records don't say exactly where. They don't say how he died. They just say he died in exile after being banished from Rome. The Church later canonizes him. But his canonization is almost an afterthought, a way to say, We remember you. Even though you died forgotten, we remember. But memory doesn't change the fact Marcellus died in exile, and history barely remembers him. Part 4. The popes who died in double exile. After the Council of Sutri in 1046, 3 popes are deposed: Benedict IX, Sylvester III, and Gregory VI. Benedict IX at least gets to retire to a monastery, but Sylvester III and Gregory VI? They're exiled. The records don't provide many details. They just say, both died in exile. No location, no date, no story, just they were exiled. And they died away from Rome. This is the cruelty of exile. Sometimes history doesn't even bother to record it. The popes are removed, they disappear, they die somewhere, and nobody cares enough to write it down. 2 popes, exiled, dead, forgotten. Their names survive only because historians keep records, but their stories, gone. Part 5. The Pope dragged to a foreign city to die. Pope Benedict V is deposed by Emperor Otto I. He's expelled from Rome, he's taken prisoner. And he's dragged to Germany, to the city of Bremen, far from Rome, far from Italy, far from everything he knows. In Bremen in 966, Pope Benedict V dies. Not a glorious death, not a martyr's death, just a former pope dying in a foreign city, stripped of everything. His body isn't returned to Rome for a papal burial. He's just buried where he dies, in Bremen, a footnote to history. Benedict V's exile isn't even that dramatic compared to others, but it reveals something. Once a pope is removed, even the smallest emperor can dictate where he goes and how he lives. Part 6. The Pope who died running. Pope Gregory VII refuses to accept Holy Roman Emperor Henry IV's authority. They fight. The Pope excommunicates the Emperor. The Emperor marches on Rome. Gregory VII is forced to flee. He can't stay in Rome anymore. He's hunted. He's in danger. He runs to Monte Cassino, then to Salerno, then to a castle by the sea. Always moving, always running. The constant travelling, the constant stress, the knowledge that he can never return, it breaks his health. He's getting older, his body is failing. But he keeps running. Finally, on May 25, 1085, Pope Gregory VII dies in Salerno, in exile, away from Rome, away from the church he tried to lead. On his deathbed he says, "I have loved justice and hated iniquity. Therefore, I die in exile." Gregory VII dies of natural causes, but he dies knowing he lost. The emperor won, and he's spending his final moments away from the city he should have ruled. Part 7. The Pope exiled by revolution. Jump forward to 1798. Pope Pius VI is no longer young, he's 81 years old, he's been pope for 25 years. And then the French Revolution reaches Rome. French troops march into the city. They depose him, they strip him of the papal states, they declare him no longer ruler of Rome, and they exile him. Pius VI is forced to leave. He's elderly, he's weak, but they force him to travel, first to Siena, then to Florence. Then, when war comes to Tuscany, they force him to travel again. Florence to France, across mountains, through winter, an 81-year-old man forced to travel while dying. He's taken to Valence, France, held as a prisoner. No cardinals permitted to accompany him. No support, no dignity. On August 29, 1799, Pope Pius VI dies in Valence, a prisoner of the French government. Exiled from Rome, exiled from his home, he dies knowing he'll never see Rome again. His papacy is over, the papal states are gone, everything has been taken. Part 8. The Pope Napoleon tried to kill. The story of Pope Pius VII is almost unbelievable. In 1809, Napoleon kidnaps the Pope from his private apartments and takes him prisoner. For 5 years, Pius VII is exiled, first in Savona, then in Fontainebleau, always a prisoner, always isolated. During his imprisonment, Pius VII refuses to compromise. He refuses to accept Napoleon's authority over the church. He resists. He communicates secretly with bishops. He defies the most powerful man in Europe from a prison cell. In 1812, as Napoleon is being transported to his exile in France, he orders Pius VII moved. The Pope is sick, he's dying, but Napoleon wants him moved anyway. The Pope is carried across the Alps, in winter, while dying. At one monastery, the monks don't recognize him at first. They think he's just a dying old man. Then they realize it's the Pope. They give him the Emperor's bedroom, the same bed Napoleon slept in during his invasion of Italy. The Pope is administered last rites. Everyone believes he's dying. He's close to death. His condition is so extreme that officials telegraph Paris the Pope is about to die. But he survives. He's moved again, carried across more mountains, in more snow, while more people think he's dying. Finally, he reaches Fontainebleau. He's imprisoned there for almost 2 more years, isolated, sick, dying in captivity. When Napoleon finally falls, when his empire collapses, Pius VII is released. He returns to Rome in 1814. But he's broken. The captivity has destroyed him. He returns a harder man, a man who refuses to accept modernity. His captivity, lasting 5 years, casts a shadow over the rest of his papacy. What Exile reveals. Looking at the popes who died in exile, Silverius, Martin, Marcellus, Sylvester, Gregory, Benedict, Gregory VII, Pius VI, we see something consistent. Exile is designed to be a death sentence. Not always immediately. Sometimes it takes years. But exile removes everything a pope needs to survive: his home, his authority, his support system, his dignity. Silverius dies on an island. Martin dies in the Crimea. Marcellus dies forgotten. Sylvester and Gregory die in obscurity. Benedict dies in a foreign city. Gregory VII dies running. Pius VI dies in captivity. All of them removed from Rome. All of them stripped of power. All of them dying away from home. What's remarkable is that some of them, Martin, Gregory VII, Pius VI, refuse to compromise even in exile. They maintain their principles even when it costs them their lives. But that principle doesn't save them. It doesn't bring them home. It just ensures they die alone, far away, believing they did the right thing. Exile is a slow death. It's not as dramatic as murder. It's not as sudden as assassination. It's just removal. Displacement. The slow erosion of everything that makes you human. The popes who died in exile all experienced this, some quickly, some slowly, but all of them experienced what it means to lose everything. To be pope is to be the centre of authority. To be exiled is to be nothing. To be a dead pope in exile is to be forgotten. The church canonized some of them. Martin became a saint. Gregory VII became a saint. But canonization comes after death. It comes after they've suffered. It comes when the church has decided they were right all along. But that doesn't help them. That doesn't warm the Crimea. That doesn't bring them home. If you found this exploration of institutional cruelty fascinating, hit subscribe. We've got more videos about popes who suffered, popes who were broken by power, popes who died far from home. Thanks for watching.